Greetings, wise, disciplined, ambitious Capricorn. My name is Eliane Nicole. I'm an astrologer and tarot card reader, and now I'm going to do the September 2020 forecast for the sign of Capricorn. I'm going to begin with a tarot reading, and then in the second half of the video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the planetary transits for September and how that's going to affect Capricorn. And you can watch this video if you have a Capricorn sun, moon, or rising. And you can watch the videos for your sun, moon, and rising to get the fullest scope of what to expect in September. So as we enter the month of September, Capricorn, you are feeling liberated from a partnership, and you are crossed by a man who is playing thematically into September for you. He could be an air sign like a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, or it could just be that he's someone who you have to have a discussion with, an exchange of ideas with, or be receiving written correspondence from, something like that. And the basis is the Ten of Cups. So this is about happiness, fulfillment, the full picture for you. What's leaving is a woman, maybe a fire sign like a Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius. What could come into being, it looks like a victory around mid-month for Capricorn. What will come into being, Five of Pentacles reversed. It looks like you are recovering from a financial or a spiritual injury around mid-month as well. Fears or insecurities, the Seven of Rods reversed. It looks like surrendering, letting go of resistance, yielding. Others see you as moving forward, a lot going on, a lot of progress. It could be literal travel. Positive feelings, again, liberation. Coming out of a situation where you might have felt trapped or inhibited or frustrated somehow. And then the outcome is the Sun reversed. So towards the end of the month, it looks like you may be having a bit of melancholy, Capricorn. When I see that for Capricorn, it's such a kind of a natural Capricornian state. It just means everything is normal, basically. I mean, I think that sometimes that a bit of melancholy can be Capricorn's default position. And I don't say that in a bad way. I'm close to very many Capricorns. I love and adore Capricorns, but there's that Saturnian kind of seriousness. It's the default position, right? So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the planetary movements. There's workers across the street, and I just must look like the crazy lady in the window with the tarot cards. But anyway, I'm going to keep going. So September 1st is the full moon of Pisces, and the Pisces full moon, I love a Pisces full moon. The Pisces full moon is it's a watery full moon. It's very intuitive. It's very psychic. It's very creative. Pisces rules music and dance and the drums. Pisces rules poetry. Pisces also rules like addiction and escapism and things like that. So, the Pisces full moon for Capricorn is emerging in the third house of communication. So it will illuminate that area of your life. It will illuminate things that you need to speak of. It will illuminate your voice. It will illuminate any writing or correspondence that you have to do. And this is really great for creative writing, for Capricorns who are artistic or creative. But even if you're not a creative person, just journaling would be good under the Pisces full moon. And the Pisces full moon is forming a sextile with Uranus, and Uranus is currently in your 5th house, which is the house of children, and it's also the house of creative projects and pleasures and joy. So this full moon, I think, could be bring a pleasant surprise to Capricorn. It could be a pleasant surprise related to children. It could be a pleasant surprise related to your creative projects, or just to pleasure and joy of some kind. So I love this full moon at the first of the month for Capricorn. And September 2nd through 4th, Mercury is forming a trine with Saturn. So this is Mercury, the planet of communication, forming a trine with Saturn, who is the planet of discipline and boundaries and reality checks. And so the trine is a very harmonious aspect. So this is a really good aspect for any communication around work or business, or matters involving structures or discipline, or any Saturnian kind of things. For Capricorn in particular, this is joining your 9th house, which is the house of spirituality and religion and higher truth. It can also be the house of travel or cross-cultural experiences. So it's joining that house with your 1st house of self-expression and the body and your identity and all of those things. So it's bringing together maybe some communication around travel with your work, maybe some communication around spirituality or religion around your work, maybe some communication around a cross-cultural experience involving your work. All of these things could be, how that Mercury trine Saturn aspect is reflected. And also September 2nd through 1st, Mercury is forming a sextile with Venus. So that's, again, Mercury in Virgo forming the sextile with Venus in Cancer. So that is bringing together your 9th house and 7th house. So again, this 9th house is really significant to Capricorn at this time of the month. It's the 9th house of higher truth, religion, spirituality. It's also the house of travel and exploration, the house of cross-cultural experiences, is coming together with something romantic, something. So for those of you who are married, maybe it's you and your spouse are communicating about traveling or exploring something together that's stimulating to both of you, or somehow and other engaging that cross-cultural experience. For people who are single, it could possibly be meaning romantic communication with someone in another country or from another country or culture. It's any kind of mixture of those archetypes is how this could all manifest for Capricorn around that time. And September 3rd, Mars is forming a square with Saturn. So this is a challenging aspect, and this is kind of happening in the middle of the Mercury stuff I was just telling you about. But Mars is forming a square to Saturn, and it's also forming a square to Venus. And so this is could be a big no somewhere, Saturn is putting the kibosh down on the situation. Mars wants to move ahead. Saturn is putting a stop to things. And so also with the square of Venus coming in, there's a feeling of the battle of the sexes a bit with this aspect. And for Capricorn, it's bringing together your 4th house and your 1st house and your 7th house. So it's your house of self, your house of home and roots, and then your house of relationship and marriage. So and sometimes for people who aren't married, the 7th house can be long-lasting business partnerships or any kind of one-on-one relationship that has long-term. And then we also look at the seventh house for like lawsuits and quarrels and disagreements, but that's mainly in predictive kind of horary kind of stuff. But anyway, September 5th, Mercury enters Libra. So when Mercury enters Libra, it's entering your 10th house of career and attainment, Capricorn. So for that period from September 5th to September 27th, there is going to be a lot of talk, a lot of discussion around your career and around your work. So again, the 10th house, it's career and attainment. If you don't have a career, it could be your vocation, it could be your calling, what you're known for in the world when you're outside of your home. So the 10th house rules all those things. And for some people, maybe it brings up father stuff as well. It can do that too for some Capricorns. But mostly we relate it to career and attainment. So it looks like a lot of talk, a lot of correspondence around that area of your life for those 3 weeks in September. And, for those of you who are writers, this is a very good time for your written work being recognized. For those of you who are singers, this is a good time for your singing work, your voice being recognized. But in general, even if you don't do one of those two professions, it could just be that your voice is being recognized in your profession during this time. And so September 6th also, Pallas Athene, the asteroid, is going direct in your first house. And this is significant because it starts off a chain of planets going direct in the first house and over the course of September. And this is significant for Capricorn because all of these planets in Capricorn have been retrograde in your first house. The first house is the most personal house of the zodiac. The first house is the house of self. It's the house of identity. It's the house of self-expression. Oftentimes it shows our decision-making processes. It can often indicate what's going on with our physical body as well. And so for all of these planets to have been retrograde since May in this very personal house, this has been a time of a lot of, reflecting, recalibrating, re-strategizing, rethinking, reimagining. Capricorn has been going through all of that for the past, I guess it's been 4 months, and now Pallas Athene goes direct. This time, it's like you're making your first outward chess move on the things that you've been strategizing about in the kind of chess game in your mind in the past 4 months. And September 6th, Venus enters Leo. So when Venus enters Leo, that's entering your 8th house, Capricorn. So this is a very creative aspect for artists. It could mean that other people are buying your artwork. It could also mean it can be a romantic aspect as well. So it can mean an extravagant gift from your spouse or from your lover. It could mean that you are giving an extravagant gift to your spouse or to your lover. It can also mean a gift, an inheritance. It could be a loan towards something creative. It could be, a very famous investor or something like that for some people. I know these are big ideals, but I'm just thinking about all of the different, I read for so many creative people that those are usually the things right at the top of my head, but there are many different ways. It could also represent a woman who has just a regal status about her, a regal energy about her, coming in and financially being of support or help or supporting your work or something like that. And so that is all happening in when Venus is traveling through Leo. So that will be September 6th and through the rest of the month into October. And September 7th and 8th, Venus is forming a sextile with Mercury. So again, the same Venus that I was just talking about, this Leo Venus in your 8th house, is forming a very pleasant aspect with Mercury in your 10th house. So it looks like you'll be communicating in a very pleasant way with this donor or this supporter, investor, about your work and your, your work, your professional life. And September 9th, Mars is going retrograde. So this is the aspect of the season. It's in a very intense year. Mars retrograde, September 9th to November 13th is the hot spot of the year. So, buckle down. Once we get through this, we've been through the worst of 2020 officially. So, Mars retrograde. Wherever Mars retrograde is happening in our chart, we will be getting a master class in that area of our life. And for you, Capricorn, this is the 4th house. This is the house of home. So the 4th house is a very deep house, and home is its most common meaning, but that's not all it means. So I want to take you through most of the meanings of the 4th house, just so all of you Capricorns who are watching can identify which level or which levels of the scale it's hitting you. Sometimes for people, one of the archetypes will really manifest, and some people can experience multiples of the archetype all at once. That's kind of what makes astrology so interesting and, alchemical. But basically, it can be the house of home, it can be the house of legacy, real estate, land, wealth. It's also the mother, it's also the roots, it's also the ancestors, it's also the past. It can also be early childhood. So right there, I've already told you 10 different archetypes of this. And so any of those areas could be where Capricorn is getting a master class. And it could be, again, a multiple of those areas. But that is the big theme. And so, Mars going retrograde around the same time, the Sun makes this opposition to, so with the Mars retrograde energy, sometimes Mars retrograde can just bring way too much to do. Like, we just have so much to do that it just seems like impossible to get it done. Sometimes Mars retrograde for people can bring up more of like a struggling with their motivation. That is rarely the case for Capricorn. But another thing that Mars retrograde can bring up, obviously, is fighting, conflicts, anger, frustration. And so, for the collective, this is certainly, going to be a time of great civil unrest, likely. We already, in the pre-shadow of Mars going retrograde, have seen the explosion in Lebanon and the fire in Spain and the California wildfires and record-breaking heats in California and Portland. And all of this stuff is very Mars retrograde, and that stuff just happened in the pre-shadow. So that just gives you an idea of where we're going, for the collective. But for you, dear Capricorn, it is that 4th house, and it is an opportunity to, we have to pick our fights, but we also have to decide what is worth fighting for and fight for that, for Black Capricorns, I mean, this is certainly, the ancestors are a part of this, clearly, with that 4th house being activated. So the other thing, I mean, not just for Black Capricorns, everyone's ancestors are activated in different ways, but, right? but there could be some ancestral releasing that needs to be done for some, and there could be some ancestral calling that needs to be done for others. But yeah, so the other thing, Mercury is forming an anticia with Neptune around the 12th and the 13th, and that's bringing together. Oh, okay, so I didn't go into the Sun opposing Neptune. So when the Sun opposes Neptune, that is your ninth house and your. Wait. Yes, the ninth house and the third house. So this could be someone being deceptive in communication. So I would just be aware of that. And September 12th through 13th, Mercury is in an anticia with Neptune. So again, this has the feeling of, I mean, it's very idealistic, it's very visionary, it's very dreamy. So there's that aspect, but the shadow side is illusion, deception. You know, it's escapism, addiction, or the shadow sides. September 12th, Jupiter is going direct in Capricorn. So Capricorn, at this time, there's something, the internal expansion work you have been doing is going to begin to reap rewards on the outside. You have probably been feeling for the past few months that you're doing this work and it's not showing up in your outside life. When Jupiter goes direct, it's going to begin to show up. But, you know, Jupiter is slightly hindered in Capricorn, so it's not as grand as you know, some Jupiter placements, but it does offer hope and things heading towards getting better and some grace. So and September 17th is the new moon of Virgo, which is taking place in your ninth house. So the ninth house, you can set intentions around travel, around spirituality, around religion, around philosophy, around higher truth, around any cross-cultural experiences, around broadcasting, around publishing. These are all ninth house issues. The new moon is incredibly fertile cosmic soil to plant the seeds of intention that you want to manifest. And also it's the Virgo new moon. So the Virgo is all about self-improvement, and it's about, you know, attention, anything that requires attention to detail. It's setting intentions around cleansing and decluttering and detoxing and purifying, and all of that is Virgo. Setting intentions around health and fitness. Physically, health-wise, Virgo rules the digestion, so if you want to set those kinds of intentions, that's also really good. And I think it's a good time under Virgo to just set intentions about not being too critical to yourself or others. And September 20th, Juno enters Scorpio. And for those of you who are married, this is going to be very deep conversations with your spouse. And for those of you who have like a long time certain like best friend, that's almost like a marriage too, because this is in your 11th house. So it could be that you're having a long deep talk with your spouse about a friend. It could be that you're having like a very deep or deep talks. It's not just one, it's over a period, but it's a very deep communication. It could also be, for some people, there could be, I don't know, researching detective work or something like that around a spouse. Yikes. There could also be, you know, just things of that nature. I don't want to go too much into that, but if you want to know more about it, contact me for a reading. And it could also be something about a friend's spouse. Anyway, September 20th through 21st, Mercury is forming a square with Pluto. So, you know, this has to do with secrets coming out. This could also have to do with resentments. This could This is involving your 8th house and your 1st house. So this is, again, the house of you, yourself, and then the 8th house, which it can be the house of death or sex or rebirth, regeneration, transformation, elimination. But it's also the house of other people's money. And so this could also be secrets being revealed or resentments coming out with something to do with any of that, like loans, investors, donors, inheritance, will, alimony, settlement, debt, any of that kind of stuff. And September 22nd, the sun enters Libra. It's the fall equinox. And so this is a time when things start to balance out. This is a time of the year where we reap what we've sown throughout the rest of the year. And, for Capricorn, Libra is going into your 10th house of career and attainment. And so it's going to be a very social time around work. It's also going to be a time where you will be recognized for your work. For those of you who, and this is the whole month, it's September 22nd through October 22nd. For those of you who don't have a job, it's going to highlight you thinking about what you want to make your calling, or it's going to highlight you thinking about and giving attention to that area of your life. And September 23rd is a big aspect for Capricorn. Mercury is forming a square with Saturn and a square with Mars too. And so this is bringing together your 8th house, your 4th house. Mars is in the 4th. It's bringing your 9th house. Mercury's in the 9th now. And so it's basically, and your 1st house. So it's something to do with, it's like a diplomatic showdown. It's it could be an argument, something like that around this time. It could be involving higher truth, travel, belief systems, your belief systems, and a person or something to do with 8th house topics. I want to be able to explain it in a better way, but it's something, contact me for a reading, Capricorn, because it's something I would have to unpack with an individual depending on where it's in their chart. But I think that all of us on the collective, I think there will be headline news described by this aspect, but also it's going to manifest in our personal lives. And the headline news, I don't want to get into that now because I'm 28 minutes in, but finally the last couple things I want to talk about. September 24th, we enter the pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is very different from Mars retrograde. Mercury retrograde is something most people are familiar with. Mercury retrograde has to do with communication. Now, it's not retrograde yet. It's September 24th. We are officially entering the pre-shadow. Mercury retrograde is happening for the 3 weeks leading up to the election, and Mercury will be stationing direct the day of the election. I'm saying this to say that make your plans, get your mail-in ballot, cast your vote, possibly drop it off at the center rather than mailing it, and try and do this before the pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde, because with what's already going on with the voting suppression kind of stuff, once the planetary stuff starts kicking in, it's probably, I don't believe that we will. The last time Mercury stationed direct on an election day was in 2000. And for those of you who remember what happened, we got news that it was one president, then later we got news that somebody else had actually won, and then it ended up having to be a recount and going to the Supreme Court, and there was all of this that came up. So this election is looking very similar to that. And so just do everything you can to get your vote in early and before the pre-shadow of retrograde. Now, September 27th, finally, Saturn goes direct in Capricorn. And this is a big thing for you, Capricorn. Saturn has been in your sign since December 2017, and it's kind of been going back and forth and around. And Capricorns have been feeling the pressure in a major way during this transit. And so this is kind of like the final, march on out. And, it's time to move forward with work. It's time to move forward with plans, and it's time to implement all of the lessons that Saturn has taught you. That's kind of what Saturn's final march through is, to kind of examine. It's like, have you implemented? Have you retained the lessons that he came to teach you since the end of 2017? This is his final inspection. So that's it, Capricorn. Have a happy September. And that final march of Saturn through your sign is, he goes direct on September 28th, and we'll be marching on through there through mid-December. So thank you, Capricorn. If you liked this video, give me a like. If you didn't like it, give me a don't like. Please follow me on Instagram at astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole. There I do more regular updates about what's going on. It's a nice complement to what I do here to keep you learning and knowing what's going on with the planets. And what else can I say? Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Hit the notification button so that you're notified when I post a new video. And definitely contact me to have your own personal cards read and your chart read. That's when you really get into the specifics and the nitty-gritty, and it's just so fascinating, and I love doing it. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful September, Capricorn.